and we are live on College Band Radio, all college band, all the time. It's a little bit different of an episode today, as you can see. We all have some interesting backgrounds, different than normally, or different than normal. And the reason is because approximately 1 week from today, the college basketball season, the 2020-2021 college basketball season will be taking place, underway. We are talking about college basketball this week because for a lot of us that is our favorite sport, meaning about half the pod team, which is three of the four of us on here, because I don't know how Annabelle. Yay or nay to college basketball over football?
I don't know. I really like football. I also really like basketball. I like them all.
I'm on the same page as Annabelle, where it's like I love basketball and I love
No, you
football.
love basketball way more. This is a proven
Okay,
fact.
well here's the thing: is like normally I'd be like I love both of them for different reasons, because like in basketball, do I get to do the westward yell push down the field? No, I don't get to do that in basketball. But but you
get to wear the hat.
That's true. I get to wear my gold cowboy hat in basketball band, which
with football, I get to be with everyone. The whole band.
That's the thing. Yeah, that's where I'm at with. Like, I'm with Annabelle, where it's like football is so much fun because I'm with my section of like 52 other trumpets and like the whole 300-member band, and we're all just like performing and having a good time, and I get to wear my black cowboy hat for that. I get to wear my uniform and stuff. But basketball has the perk of like you get so hype for just two
it's much more
hours.
Intimate.
Exactly.
It's the best.
We're FCS for football, but we're full-fledged D1 for basketball. And we're generally pretty good at basketball. Like, there's a really rich, like, fun history of basketball, you and I, so people get super into it. And, like, I love that. I just love both for different reasons. I actually, at rehearsal the other day, I made the mistake of saying that I like pep band more than marching band, and then my director...
That's not a mistake.
No, my director put me on blast for it. Mertz roasted me so bad.
Nah.
So, Mertz, if you're listening to this, I have not forgotten that.
That's an incorrect take. Pep band is objectively better than marching band.
I fully agree with Alex on this.
Hell yeah, let's go, Craig.
I mean, football, you say something, most likely nobody is going to hear it unless your band happens to be mic'd up and there's a mic literally right in front of you. Which has happened before, where some things that I've said may have been broadcast into the stadium, but generally that's not the case. Generally, the only times when opposing teams' athletes hear what I say is in basketball games when it's a closed environment and the entire place is an echo chamber.
That's true.
And that's when you get people like former head coach of Penn State, Pat Chambers, giving me the stanky eye after the game.
I will say that's the fun thing with where the pep band sits in McLeod is like they put us right next to the opposing team's bench. So like, and we're like I will say we're like a nice pep band. Like we'd rather be like funny than mean. But like if somebody fouls out, will literally as they're walking go like left, right, left, right, left, right.
Love that
and
one.
Sit down. Like I love that.
Good time.
And it's funny to I don't know. It's like because a couple times the players of like on the opposing team like turn around and they're like looking at us and I'm like, what you gonna do? Come up here? I dare you.
Have you ever been in a situation where they like would fake the sit down because they
I've
they
been
know
in
it's
that.
coming?
And my favorite thing is whenever they stand at the very end and then they try and sit down whenever they think we aren't paying attention, and then you yell it in the middle of a play because they'll just like sit like crossed-armed at the very end of the bench waiting to sit down.
Well, I was gonna.
Yeah, no, okay. If they're standing and they're not sitting down, if nothing's going on in the court,
I just yell standing. Like
the whole band just goes stand, 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 stand.
See, I like that.
One of my favorite memories last year was whenever we beat #1 Auburn at home because it was like basically like sold out. And I remember one of their players, he either got like a technical or something, but he had to be like removed from the game. And so it was like the whole like stadium just like shouting at him left, right, left, right. And then like he had to pass right by the bands. We were just like screaming in his face. And then one of the photographers, they got a picture of it. of like me and all my friends like yelling at him. So then I posted on Instagram and I tagged him, and then he reshared it, but then he deleted it like immediately after. But I know he saw it, so.
Yep.
Oh my god, yo! If someone has like a LeBron hairline where it's just like fading more and more, like we'll go after that. I mean, I usually go after coaches. So, like, I'll look up, like, a coach's entire history. I'll find out any of that stuff.
Because, obviously, McLeod's, like, I mean, McLeod's pretty big, but since we're right by the benches and, like, obviously our directors can see us, we try and not yell at the coach because we don't want to get in trouble. But also, like, we're Iowa nice. So, like, when they're doing, like, player introductions, for example, for the opposing team, like, after they introduce someone, we just all go, "Hi, welcome to Iowa!"
Oh, we just yell sucks.
When the other team is being introduced, we all turn around.
We shake newspapers.
We used to do
newspapers.
Yeah. It used to be newspapers, and then because we'd hold the newspapers up when they're getting introduced, and then you drop them and go, "Who cares?" And then you pull them back up. It was like the campus newspaper. But then we stopped doing that because somebody was like, "This is kind of mean," and we were like, "That is kind of mean."
No, it's not.
Yes.
No. See, you're too
Iowa,
nice. Like
Iowa nice dictate.
Okay,
Maryland literally has one of the. I mean, again, just from telling you guys about men's soccer games, there is no way that you can say that Maryland is nice when it comes to.
Yeah,
I would
say that the Rutgers pep band, especially for basketball, especially when I was kind of in charge of a lot of the student leadership of it, was on the nasty side, we'll say. We've definitely gotten into players' heads.
Well, out here
we're not
in the Missouri
nice.
Valley Conference, we're friendly.
Oh no, the Big Ten is a whole different animal. Like any jab that you can do, you will do.
The thing with us is our goal is we're like, we want to cheer on our team more aggressive. Like, we want to spend more time cheering on our team than like trying to slam on the other team, because ultimately, like, it's more fun just to yell for our players anyway. Because we have we always do jeans, but they can't be jeans with like holes in them because we're representing UNI, and they're like, don't look super grungy. But we do jeans and whatever shoes you want. And then we have these like off-brand like tech gear or sport tech purple polos with like an embroidered like UNI logo, and then beneath it just says Pep Band. And they are, y'all, they are ugly. They are not cute.
I love ours.
Because y'all have, like, nice Nike stuff. We have like, an
Under Armour shirt that just says
Maryland Pep
Band.
That's...
If I had to wear khakis for Pep Band, I would not be okay.
But they're like golf khakis, so they're, like, very lightweight.
Wait, you have, like, specific Pep Band khakis?
Yes. So like, Mizzou, like, our directors very much were, like, professionalism, and so, yeah, we can never do, like, what the Rutgers band is. Normally, like, we don't say anything that even, like, steers near, like, super negative. But we wear our, like...
Mizzou needs to wrap it up.
We wear our marching band rehearsal shoes that they give us. So, like, a black pair of Nike tennis shoes. And then they give us, like, a pair of Nike golf pants. So it's kind of weird because the men's and the women's, they're different shades of khaki, which is kind of weird. But, like, that way all the women's and all the men's wears the same kind.
Well, that's good.
And then we have, like, a long sleeve dry fit shirt. This is like mini Mizzou. We used to have polos.
Y'all's mini Mizzou shirts are really cool, actually. We've all started kind of dressing up our uniforms in our own ways this year, or like last year, I should say, is like, because I have these cute little purple and gold bows. So before I got the cowboy hat, I'd always do like a bow, and we get every once in a while they'll have like free armbands or like like bandanas and stuff you can grab at the door when you come in. So like, some people will always wear like their UNI armband or like something that's like their lucky item. Obviously mine is my cowboy hat. But I didn't ask permission when I brought this to the game for the first time. I was just at Party City and I was like, you know what? I'm going to get a gold cowboy hat. I'm going to wear it because I love my P&B cowboy hat. And I showed up to the game and then Jack just freaking lost it. He thought it was so funny. So then like when we went to St. Louis and stuff, all of our St. Louis is where we have our conference tournament for the men, which is Arch Madness. like literally all of our like pep rallies and stuff we did in the city, I was just like there. I'd be wearing like my black winter coat and then just my cowboy hat. I was like, yeehaw, let's get that dub.
I want to say something quickly, just kind of finish it off because I want to mention March Madness just for a second and then something else at Maryland. But I do want to, I mean, we have someone who goes to a mid-major school, and we are going to talk to a pep band director and or students that are also from a mid-major program. So we will get into that momentarily. I did want to say the one thing about, I guess from my perspective about pep band is that at least at Maryland games, there's this thing that happens that is at the 8-minute media timeout in the second half. It's this movie montage of different quotes from basketball movies, and like you do not know how much I anticipate that. Like I go nut, and I know over time, over these last over the last 4 years that I was at Maryland, I've started to memorize said quotes so that I say them as it goes on. Also, there's an advertisement by the Washington Post, because that's the local newspaper and or national newspaper that sponsors Maryland games, and I can tell you that entire advertisement.
That's how we are with we're sponsored by Casey's. So that's one of the pet peeves is we yell shoot it from the Casey's because there's Casey's logos at our court. But they always play a Casey's commercial during the game, and everyone in the pet band just screams sentimental pizza because it's like this weirdly wholesome commercial for pizza.
That is how you know you are in the middle of nowhere. Casey's is your sponsor.
Casey's is our sponsor. And
it's like a discount so Wawa.
See, and I'm not hating because my hometown.
I don't know. I've lived there for 2 months and I still haven't visited a Casey's. So I gotta get
my hometown had 3 Casey's. We only had 8,000 people, but we had 3 Casey's.
That's living right there.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
We have like 4
the ratios.
Cedar Falls.
It's like
and
almost
the best part
one
is
Casey for every 3,000 people.
If you look at
0 in Columbia, because we're too metropolitan to have a Casey's.
That's sad. I'm sorry for your loss. So, like right behind the, like if you look at our court, you can kind of see it if I lean sideways. Right, right there is the Casey's logo. We have
it's
them either
on
end of the court. Yeah,
No.
we have 2 Casey's logos on the
God.
court. But the best part is the Casey's logo is like 2 steps behind the 3-point line. So anytime someone gets close, the whole pep band goes, shoot it from the Casey's! And the Casey's is considered the most powerful place on the court.
How much did they pay to get their logo literally on the court?
I don't know. Whatever
That's
it was
impressive.
worth it.
Casey's is big money.
Casey's is important in these.
I take back
parts.
all of the bad words that I said about Casey's. Casey's is big time now.
We love Casey's.
People name their kid
really
Casey around here.
But I do want to say there is this amazing thing called March Madness that happens.
Never
that's
been.
better than any
Can't
bowl
relate.
game or national championship. I got the opportunity. I've been to the NCAA tournament twice. Hence the reason why I got this towel, because I didn't just buy it online. And I'm not even joking when I say there's like basketball games that you watch on TV. There's basketball games that all of us have been to at our home courts. So it's like TV here, home courts up here, and then the NCAA tournament is like 1,000 times more than that, even though the venues aren't that big until you actually get to the Final Four. Like, it's all the same size, but there is something about an NCAA tournament game that is just like it, because I think it's because it's win or go home. I think that's the reason why. But it's like it is something else. It is like I can't even describe it. I'm sorry that you guys haven't.
In my time at college, yeah.
I hope that you can
pain.
go. I hope you can
you
go.
know what?
It is one of the most amazing things
Y'all,
ever.
my pain from last year is that, for those of you that aren't familiar with UNI basketball, first of all, why not? Second of all, it was a very on-brand move for UNI, unfortunately. Last year at our tournament, which I'm wearing my Arch Madness shirt, because we have it in St. Louis every year. And this was like literally like 3 days before the COVID shutdown started. UNI went into the tournament as the #1 seed. I was so excited because for the first time since I've been in college, I was like, dang, we're going to make the tournament. Because like as a mid-major school, we don't typically get an at-large bid. Like a lot of like the Big Ten obviously gets those, and some of the other Power 5 conferences typically take all of those. So really you have to win out or else you're not going to get in. And you and I went in as the number 1 seed. I was so excited, and then we were playing the 8 seed, and I don't know what happened. It was like the beginning of the end of the good times. We lost to an 8 seed by like 20 points. I was absolutely in pain because I was like, oh man, like this was going to be the year. So as like a mid-major school, you like, there's like a lot more like, I don't want to say like pressure involved, it's just like hype and stress because you're like, is this going to be the year we make it? Like, is this going to be it? Because you and I hasn't made the tournament since 2016. And since I was on the men's tournament band for Pep Band, I was going to get to go if we made the tournament. Obviously, like, we lost. I don't know if we would have made it or not. I think we had a chance to still get an at-large because of our record. But, like, 3 days later, they, like, you and I, like, a lot of places were announcing they were shutting down for 2 weeks after spring break. And then I think that Friday, they canceled the NCAA tournament entirely. So I just, like, live in that, like, oh my gosh, I'll never know. So, like, this year, I'm really, like, hoping that we'll get that chance as a mid-major, but also, like, with the way things are now, obviously it's really, really a bad situation out there. So I don't know maybe we'll make the tournament this year and, like, the band won't get to go. I have no idea. So
are the
just,
vibes
like,
the same as, like, you know, as a Power 5 school? Is it kind of the same as a mid-major?
I think our conference tournaments are almost like, I haven't been I've been to a couple Power 5 like basketball games. I think I went to an Iowa basketball game quite a few years ago. But I think there's like almost an extra level of intensity because we don't have that fallback of like, oh, well, like, we're in, like, for the Big Ten, for example, like, oh, if you don't win out, like, there's a pretty good chance you're still going to make the tournament. Mm-hmm. But for us, it's really, especially in, like, especially, like, the lower ranked schools, it's like, you either win or your season's done. I think there's, like, another level of intensity for sure, though, just because, like, that pressure's on. And it also makes it, like, it makes the upsets even crazier, because I know, like, I have to hand it to Drake. They showed up to play. You and I really didn't. So, like, I know that was exciting for them to come in and kind of get that shot and making it further. Valpo, obviously, like, they came in as the 9 seed, maybe. And they were the first team from a Thursday night kind of play-in game to make it all the way to the championship. So that was really exciting for them. Shout out to the Valpo fans. Y'all were so nice to us. But it just makes it, like, it adds that intensity, I think, for sure.
And you can see the excitement that we all have for this season. I'm sure that we're all
can't wait.
We're so excited for this. A lot of us because our football teams are garbage, so this is the only thing that we have that's fun. Others because it's just fun.
Yeah, Hannah doesn't even have a football team.
Yeah, that's true. I was just gonna interject that. It's like, I feel like part of the reason I'm very excited for basketball is because that's gonna be the first sport that's back at UNI. Because I have not seen UNI athletics since March, and that was when my last in-person sporting event was Arch Madness, also known as Arch Sadness for those of us in the Pep Band.
F in the chat. F in the chat.
Yeah, F in the chat for that. But yeah, we're all obviously very, very excited for basketball season.
We hope for your sake that it's actually going to happen. And it doesn't get messed up in any sort of way just because of how long you guys have been waiting.
I'm gonna speak this into existence right now. Like, y'all, if I find out I do not get basketball season, like, we got.
Hey, you can transfer. You can transfer to Maryland.
I better be there in my khakis. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, exactly.
I better be. Even if they don't let you in, just go there in your khakis with your instrument and just start playing.
In a couple months.
What are they going to do? Kick you out?
What is it?
Just
February,
fight
I think.
Nah.
It'll be almost February when we're finally back on campus, getting to do Pep Band. So if on February 1st or whenever that game is, if I am not in that ugly polo and this cowboy hat and my jeans and my trumpet, like, I'm not going to be okay. I'm going to let all of our listeners know that right now. Like, if something happens to the season, know that, no, I am not okay.
Somebody just set a little calendar reminder to check on Hannah and
yeah, exactly.
So for Hannah's sake, hopefully the season will happen, and nothing will be weird, and we'll be able to go to games in some sort of capacity, have bands in the stands, all that good stuff. But I think it's best now that we go on to our main segment, or part of our main segment, which is our featured interview. So we hope you enjoy that, and then stay tuned for our very special guest to talk about this season and what's going to happen with college basketball. And welcome back to this main segment of our College Band Radio College Basketball Preview Show. We have two very special guests today from George Mason University in Fairfax, Virginia. They are associated with the GMU Green Machine Pep Band, which has been rated is the top-rated pep. Am I getting that right? The top-rated pep band in the NCAA. What's the?
All right. So yeah, I'm gonna wink at that. They put out a ranking in 2015 and did put us at the top, and they haven't put out a ranking of college pep bands since then. So I'm just gonna assume
it counts.
That we're still that until there's another list.
It counts. Just use it. It counts.
We'll change it from the top ranked pep band to the 2015 top ranked pep band or something like that.
It'll work.
Both of them feel good to me.
So we have Dr. Michael Nickens, who is the pep band director. Most people know him as Doc Nicks. And then my friend Derrick Wallis. Derrick's a senior currently. First off, how are both of you doing? How's everything going with Green Machine? What have things been like so far this semester, and what's the plan that either of you know about what's going to happen once the basketball season starts?
So I'll start from my point of view on it. Everything's been kind of sliding. You know, the announcements come when they come, and we sit around and kind of wait. We try to ask the best questions we can to get ahead of some things. Sometimes certain decisions have to be made before other decisions have been made, even though they're dependent on each other. So we end up doing the best we can with a decision in July, even though the decision is something different in October or whatever. And then everything's just kind of a lot is out of our hands. So things that have been going pretty well. We have a Tuesday night class, and so we hop on a Zoom with 100 and however many people and just talk about kind of whatever. So that's how it is from my point of view. But I'd love to hear, Derrick, who's been, if with Derrick, if we had 40 things to be at, he's somehow at 50. That's just who he is. And I'd love to hear what all that is like from his point of view.
And yet I'm still a full-time student somehow. Yeah, it's definitely been an interesting year, at least from a student perspective. I am still full-time, I'm not that maximum credits. I'm pretty close though. But as far as experience goes, for those you don't know, I'm primarily a clarinet player, but I'm also a percussionist and a vocalist or rapper, depending on the ensemble. I am in the pep band. I'm also in the spirit drum line. So we have two drum lines. There's one that goes around the world to compete, and then the other one is relegated to campus performances and other local programs before Washington football games, the like. And the spirit drum line, fortunately, with how small it is, has been able to meet in person. As far as basketball goes, we've really only had real things only happen the past couple of days. We've had the schedule released, mainly cardboard cutouts and limited fans in the arena. Tickets and details are still going to follow in the next couple of days, but for the most part, things are starting to return to normal. But with how things are starting to ramp up, it's still a question of what's going to happen. But all in all, we're hoping for the best. And as far as pep band goes, it's been really sad not to see everyone in the same room together. But at the same time, we've been able to make the most of it. We've had really cool master classes talking about the likes of Aretha Franklin. We've got two of her charts in the book. It was really nice to look back on her life as a musician.
So I wanted to ask both of you, I guess more primarily Doc Nicks, since you are the band director, pep band director. What can you talk more about what the Green Machine is, how it came to be, the history, and just what you guys do on a daily basis when you're at games, when you're not at Eagle Bank, all that kind of stuff.
So I've been doing a little bit of a history project ongoing since I've been working at Mason. And as far as I can tell, there have been some sort of pep band, some type of thing at Mason since the late 60s. And it's on and off. So you see something for a couple years, and then maybe some kids graduate, and then somebody else starts something up, and that goes on. The university became a 4-year a 4-year entity, independent in 1972. So even predating its like sort of independence from UVA, there was something. And then a couple good strong stints in the 80s and 90s, and then finally something kind of continuous from the late 90s into the mid-aughts. And in 2006, the basketball team went to the Final Four. A bunch of people started putting a lot of attention and energy into what a basketball game could be like. And one of the sort of results of the Final Four run was, let's hire an athletic band director. So I got the gig, and we've just been building ever since. As I was starting to think, and all the conversations were kind of on moving towards a college marching band kind of model, even though there's no D1 football. I grew up in drum corps, marched winter guard, marched drum corps, so the idea of sort of like, well, we could connect with a lot of high schools and across the country if we go into that indoor competitive arena, Atlantic Indoor Association and Winter Guard International. So we started a competitive drum line, and for years it was just sort of those three groups: the guard, the drum line, and the pep band. But then the more we came to prominence, even just in our own campus community, the more kinds of things we started to get asked to perform at. And the hip-hop, rock and roll, funk, pep band wasn't always the best choice for what we were being asked to do. So just different things started showing up. So we have a smaller group that's just like a one-and-a-part funk band. And then we have some that show up with acoustic guitars or even electric guitars, and they just sort of make a small rock band. And the songs might be the same, or versions of different versions of the same songs. Kind of whatever someone's talented enough to do, and they do it. Brave enough to do. Maybe they're not even talented enough all the time, but they're definitely brave enough. And and then there's a like a New Orleans style brass band that emerged, and the fife and drum that Derrick mentioned before. And then most recently we put in place sort of like a Civil War era brass band. So we have like the kind of history of marching bands in America, going from our fife and drum corps and colonial uniforms all the way through the 19th and 20th centuries, and then to the most cutting edge stuff with our Winter Guard competitive drum line and our pep band. So sometimes we march, and sometimes we stand still, and sometimes we just dance, and sometimes we do a reception or a university ceremony, and then it just goes on and on from there. You've seen us at Jiffy Lube performing with Lady A, opening for Opus 1 at Meriwether Post Pavilion, performing with Grizz at the Anthem, and probably the biggest thing was performing at the World Series as the Nationals were on their way to winning the thing. So we actually got to go to 2 different games for that, so that was just a huge thrill for everybody. So primarily it's a basketball band, the Green Machine, and then if you look closer, there's 9 different ensembles doing different kinds of things. We call that whole entity the Green Machine Ensembles. It's athletic bands, it's arts entertainment, sports entertainment, it's an educational thing, competitive thing, it's all that wrapped up together.
So along with that, the Green Machine is just really unique and different from a lot of other different pep bands across the country. And I know, for example, so I've been to a game and I've seen Derrick wear like every single Mardi Gras bead that he can find, wear like money glasses. I mean, I know, Doc, you dress up in like a full getup. You got the cane, walking around, the glasses. Like, it's the whole thing. You guys have a lot of personality. Can you talk more to that personality, how they came to be? And I know, along with that, you guys also have your own, basketball style uniforms with your own nicknames on the back of it. And I'm sure that you get that through, stories and stuff like that taught in the band. And I do want to hear more about that. But also just how did that start? How did the personality start? And just trying to make yourself unique and different from other pep bands across the country.
The jerseys actually predate me. When I showed up, they already had basketball jerseys. They weren't personalized down to the person, but they had George Mason on the front and the athletic logo on the back, with this shiny gold material. And I like the way the gold looked in the arena. I like the way it looked in pictures, and so we kept that. But once the Green Machine name sort of started coming into play, we wanted to put the Green Machine logo on it. And then I marched in the Yale Preseason Marching Band during my master's degree when I was there, and never got a chance to actually, no, let me say it again. Never took the time to play in the hockey band, which was a huge mistake. Maybe I need to get back up there and do one once everything's right. But the hockey band there had personalized jerseys, personalized hockey jerseys, and I just thought it was the coolest thing, and saw how much everyone loved their own jersey, and then knowing a little bit about how the marching band was at football games. Yeah, there was a uniform, but then people would wear whatever hat or scarf, or they would just do things out there to sort of show that it was unified and diversified at the same time. And then in terms of the student part of it, Derrick, you can speak for yourself on that.
Yeah, it's just really, it all comes down to the individual and just like who they are as a person and who they are no matter what instrument they play. So for me, my primary section, because there's 3 of them, for the clarinets, we're just like, we're one of the zaniest sections ever. Like everyone's got their own kind of like vibe. You've got like the loud people, you've got the quiet people, like, and we're all just kind of like a little.
Do we really
family.
have the quiet people? Do we really have the quiet people?
I know of one. I know of one.
Quiet compared, maybe.
There's one on my mind, but I'm not going to dox her right now. But all around, like no matter if you're the drum set or if you're the lead rapper, it's just a matter of like no matter what like name and number you put on the back of your jersey, or like what like if you're wearing like you like have the jersey or like a beanie like our guitar player has. Or like me, you have like a bunch of different like Mason themed and like different hats, just depending on like what's going on. It's just like it all comes down to the person and like what they want to exude, and it's just like it's the little things that just contribute to everything, no matter how ridiculous or insane it may seem. It's just a matter of like it speaks to us, not just individuals, but it speaks to us as a band and a university, just like how much our individualism and how I don't want to say culture, that sounds weird, but it's just like how we are as like musicians. That's what I'm looking for. Just like
it's definitely a microculture, and
yeah.
Think about we don't, if we do face paint, it's not uniform, but it's the same colors, for instance. So it's like I said, it's in all directions and unified at the same time, and that's one of the great ways you can make room for each other and incorporate things that you wouldn't even expect could go together. Then you find they do.
Yeah, definitely. From the pictures I've seen of you guys in the game, it looks so cool. I'm known as the person's my band that always like dresses up really like crazy, and like because we have like Gold Friday, so I'll be like gold head to toe. But then like on game days we're really uniform. So I think like having that individualistic approach would be really cool. But Derrick, could you speak a bit more like on what the audition process is like, and like is it competitive to get into Green Machine, and like what's kind of the atmosphere of like getting into it?
As far as like pep band and like some of the more localized ensembles, like even our most recent one, like the Civil War band, and even the dance team too. There can be audition process, but that for the pep band specifically, there is and then there isn't really. It's just a matter of like it's more of like finding your place. So like there's people like who have never picked up any kind of instrument, have no musical experience, and we just like we find a way. And like that's actually how the dance team got created. The name is Emerald Desire. That's actually how it came to be last fall. There was a freshman who approached Doc with this idea like, hey, I don't know much about music, but I'm a pretty experienced dancer. Can we get this thing going? So it's a matter of like, it goes back to the individual again. Like, do I have musical talent? Do I not? Do I have previous talent, but do I want to try something else? That's eventually how I became to be a vocalist. So it's just a matter of like, you getting familiar with the staff and your peers, and just finding your place, finding what works for you, and eventually you will blend in. You'll have the time of your life.
Yeah, it's definitely it sounds very cool. Could you guys speak about like the unique instrumentation that your pet band has? I saw some string instruments in there too.
You want to
Both
tell her about the
acoustic
harp?
and yeah, right. We have both acoustic and electric strings. We have the electric harp, synthesizers, guitars, vocalists, singers, and rappers. We've had scratch DJs. We've had the vocoder. We have ukuleles and bagpipes have shown up, and just kind of more out of not really worrying about what should or shouldn't be there. It's like if someone wants to be part of us, then you're part of us. And then a lot of times things just transfer really well. If you want to play soprano sax, you can play the clarinet part easily. You can play the trumpet part easily. They're just figuring out how to make it work. Oboes have been there. Bassoons have been there.
Melodicas too.
Melodic. Oh yeah, definitely some strong melodica game for sure. So yeah, it's just a matter of continuing to make sure if somebody wants to have the experience, we stretch ourselves to make sure, or just do everything we can to make sure it's a satisfying one. It's the reason why the sound system showed up, just to make sure that first to just make sure the electric bass and the electric guitar can do its thing, the synthesizer can do its thing. But then it's like, well, if we have it, we might as well plug a mic in, or we might as well amplify this electric viola or whatever it is. So yep, lots of different things.
A whole show.
So I wanted to just quickly focus or like go a little bit more into just like what the Green Machine is in terms of in relation to what George Mason is. So
Well, for those that do know about us, do know that we bring a lot of energy no matter where we go. So I think in basketball games especially, like no matter what's going on in the game, like especially if we're winning, that's great, then we just amplify it more. But I think and this has been especially prevalent in the last couple of seasons, like both teams, men and women, have fed on the energy that's in the arena, not just from us, from like the fans, no matter if they're in the nosebleeds or in the VIP or in the student section, which sometimes is or isn't there depending on the game. But yes, for the most part, they feed off energy, and if we are the biggest contributor of said energy. So it's our goal and in a way obligation to make sure the energy is as high as it can be, or otherwise it's not going to be a good result. And the idea is not just for us to contribute to a product on the court, but to also contribute in a music performance kind of way, to make sure that the spectators have the best experience possible too, not just watching the basketball in front of them, but also like listening to songs in between timeouts and halftime and whatnot. So that's how that plays in.
I love the way we're able to think about a game in the middle of January in a normal season, whenever all the students are home. We're still able to get 50 members in, even more than that sometimes, as people live locally and can make it to a game, or some people will make the drive to from wherever they're from, just because we miss each other and love doing what we do. And so we become the student section. Like we're gonna jump around and scream and do little dances during, try to distract from free throws and chant during the game, and make sure that the players hear that we're paying attention to them and what we want to reward, all the good things that we see happen.
Yeah, that's a great saying. For you, Derrick, what would be your favorite part about the Green Machine? And then do you have any like favorite songs from the set list?
Oh boy. Both of those things are kind of hard, because I touched on earlier, like as I've gotten to know people that have come and gone, it's just like meeting people who aren't even in your section. It's just like connecting with people, not just as musicians, but as college kids too, as adults, just getting to know and people even from like different parts of the world. Even there's a genre kind of on the rise, and it's video game music. So we have things from like Punch Out, Tecmo Super Bowl, which is, in my opinion, our greatest chart. I love playing it, not just because I love the game and it's the first video game I ever played and it has a special place in my heart, but just like there's something about playing it live that's just, it's one of the most satisfying things ever. So It's a lot. It's a lot of fun.
Hey, so our last question is for you, Doc. So what does it mean that the Green Machine has been named like number one, like the number one college prep band in the country? Like, why do you think that's happened? And then with that, do you think that's come from you being like a bit of a celebrity within the community? We heard, you had your own bobbleheads and plushies and kind of stuff like that.
Wow, there's a lot there. One of the things is this is my community. I grew up here. My mother still lives half an hour away from campus, and the part of the reason why it all works is just because I know my neighbors and I know what we've all wanted to do. And the recognition from the NCAA, we've gotten recognition from other places as well, from Bleacher Report and ESPN. I think one of the things folks see right off the bat is they see engagement. They just see people in it, pushing hard, having fun, really like taking it over the top, and kind of never not doing that. Always just pushing, and having a great time. There's a lot of love there. We all care about each other a lot, and really genuinely have a great time together. So I think that's one thing people respond to. Once you start adding in all those unique instruments, you hear sounds that you wouldn't hear otherwise, and then we went out of our way to make sure we can make that as a professional setup as we can. So we get the band a certain size, and I need a subwoofer that's going to shake the building. And it's like people think, oh, the band sounds great. And what they really mean is, I really like the way your bass sounds, and it's all the same thing, And then we do our best to just give people things that they know and would love to hear, didn't know they were going to hear it at a game, and then we surprise them with that. They didn't know we were going to mash this song with that song and how well that was going to work together. So it's just a lot of we'll feed you stuff and we'll twist it into something you don't know. And then when it comes to the NCAA, it's kind of interesting. It's like, they'd celebrate us for our guitars and our vocalists and all that, but to be honest, it's kind of interesting because if we go to a tournament, we can't take any of that stuff. So it's like they're giving us this acknowledgement of being innovative and creative, and their own system kind of doesn't allow for it. Now, obviously, that's something we can work on over time. But it's like, I guess that's like, it kind of captures it for me, because it's like, just because we can't fit all the rules doesn't mean they don't like it. Just there's logistics to figure out, and they don't always know, what the best thing is. We have shown up at tournaments where we can't bring this or that, and people still love it. And they're into the energy. They're into the spontaneous choreography and the planned choreography. They're into my shiny gold suit and gold gaiters. Just we got attitude. We have fun. We're very positive. We love making friends with everyone we meet, collaborating everywhere we go. Just both of y'all count yourselves as members of the Green Machine for life. There's no getting out of the band ever, so you might as well show up for something.
If I come by, I'm gonna bring my clarinet.
I'll bring my instrument. I'll bring my instrument next time. Before we end this, where can people find the Green Machine on social media?
So you can find Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, Facebook. We're behind on a TikTok. I think might become a COVID project. But usually it's GMU Green Machine. The Facebook page is called Doc Nix and the Green Machine. You can also just get on the web and find Green Machine at gmu.edu. And then you can find me, Doc Nix, on Twitter, DocNix12 actually. And then Michael Nickens, a.k.a. Doc Nix, on Facebook. And the Instagram, I'm Doc Nix. And we got like I said, lots to see and lots to check out. I would also suggest getting on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel that's got over 100 videos going back to, I think, about 2012 or 2013, something like that. And there's that. And then I guess one of the biggest things that has ever happened to us, I think it's the World Series, but it's actually something bigger that happened than that, is we have this one video of us at a rehearsal in 2011, the second time we ever read our Rage Against the Machine medley, and that's got like 120 million views all over everything. To say that's viral, it's like the viral went viral. I don't even know what to say about it. It's got a life of its own. But if you've ever seen the band in the room playing Bulls on Parade and Killing in the Name, that's us. And yeah, so that's how you can find us, and we look forward to meeting you and checking it out. And please check out our drumline and color guard, and please check out just all the things.
All right. Well, thank you so much to both of you for coming on. We really appreciate it, and it was
My pleasure. Thank you for asking.
It was a great conversation. Best of luck. Hopefully everything works out well going into the season. I know it's a little bit weird, but fingers crossed everything goes well. So again, thank you guys so much, and for everyone watching and listening, stay tuned for what's left in the podcast, and please enjoy. And welcome back to our final segment of this college basketball preview episode for College Band Radio. Today we have a very, very special guest with us, someone that you might see on the college basketball bracketology front, college football playoff discussion front, a former Purdue All-American Marching Band member, alumni, sports journalist, sports writer, Jerry Palm of CBS Sports. Jerry, thanks so much for coming on. We really, really appreciate you taking the time to do this. Jerry, can you talk a little bit more about your background, not only in sports journalism, but in band in general?
Yeah, so, band, I have a checkered history with instruments. So I started out on clarinet. My clarinet broke my freshman year of high school, so I switched to bass clarinet. I kept playing my bass clarinet, but they wouldn't let me march it. So my sophomore and junior year of high school, I marched cymbals. Now, in high school, about that time, I'm maybe 5'2", 85 pounds. So the cymbals were almost as heavy as I was. By the time I got to be a senior, all the low brass had graduated in my band, so then they let me march my bass clarinet for my senior year. Then I went to Purdue, and I tried out for the All-American Marching Band, and I had to try out back on clarinet, which I had not played for 4 years. Somehow made the band, and it's funny how much different it is now. That was 1981. It totally changed my life. Being in marching band completely changed my life. I met my wife there, my ex-wife there, and actually my current wife. I got married again in September to somebody else I was in band with way back at Purdue.
That's so cute.
All of my friends from Purdue are band people. The band culture it's just different. Band family is different than it's always there. 35 years later, band family is still there, and I wouldn't trade the All-American Marching Band experience for anything. I go back whenever I can. It's a blast to have been a part of it and to just see what it's become now. It's just amazing to see how the band culture nationally has grown. I mean, locally, obviously I pay attention to Purdue. That's local for me, but all over, my kids are in competitive high school marching band, and it's just insane. It's fantastic what these band programs can do now.
Boy, Jason's gonna be on cloud 9 with all that constant hype for the.
Says it much better than I would have ever said it.
I miss that this year. I miss being a band parent. I miss seeing the shows. I miss watching Avon and Carmel and all the great Indiana bands that we have in high school bands. And I really miss the college marching bands, because there are so many great college marching bands, and the halftime show and the pregame show, it's different at every campus. And I get to go, to a lot of these different campuses to watch games. And I'm the one who sticks around in the press box at halftime. I'm the one that goes down and talks to the band director before the game. I'm completely a geek about it, and that's okay. I enjoy it. I mean, I get to see a lot of great bands, and I got to see LSU's band at the national championship last year. They're terrific. And there's so many different styles in college band. I mean, the high school competitive bands, everybody's the same style. You get into college, and it's so much different and such a varied style. The Big Ten style is different than a lot of other bands do. It's just fun to be able to see the creativity that all of these bands have. And then, of course, you're doing a new show every couple of weeks. Unlike, a high school band where some college bands do the same show all year long. Like Alabama's band does that. But most college bands, it's a different show every couple of weeks. And I always enjoyed, all right, we've done this one, we're on to the next one. And you got to learn it, and you got to learn it fast. And sometimes you only get 1 week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know that's something we're all definitely missing. Alex, obviously, you've graduated, but Annabelle, I think, got to do some band this year. I've had some band because, obviously, you and I is FCS for football, so we're in the spring now, allegedly. or in the
Right.
spring. And then Jason, I know you've gotten to do some performing, even though y'all can't be at the games. So.
Yeah, I think I'm the only one that's been at games, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have a pretty vested interest in I mean, I have a very vested interest in basketball every year because I just love basketball and I love pep band. Whenever we have our first basketball game, it's going to be the first sporting event for you and I since I think the men were in St. Louis last year for the conference tournament for basketball. So
You and I's got a pretty good basketball program too.
that we do.
Yeah, they've got a great coach. So yeah, they're usually right up there at near the top of the league. So yeah, I don't know if they'll win it this year or not, but they're going to be one of the favorites for sure.
Yeah, I know. I'm so excited. I think it's definitely been. Last year was so rough because we were super, super close, and then we lost in the I mean, it wasn't a close game in the conference tournament, but getting there, we were right at the top. Then obviously COVID shut everything down, so we're hoping this year we kind of get to go all the way. Since I'm in the pep band, if we go to the tournament, if we have bands at the tournament, I would get to go. So I'm always like, all right, guys, this is the year we can do it.
Pep bands are great. I got to sit in once with the VCU pep band.
Ooh,
and that was just, I happened upon it because VCU was at the Chicago region. The year they went to the Final Four, they were at the Chicago Regional, which is home for me. So I was there, and they had so much energy. And I went to talk to the director, and Purdue was there also. In fact, they beat Purdue in Chicago, but their band director was a live wire, and he invited me to sit in with him. It took me 5 years to get there, but I went and sat in with the VCU band at a home game in Richmond, and it is a show. And I was so worn out, and I'm just trying. I'm sight reading everything. I'm trying to do all this choreography, and I'm paying more attention to the choreography because I've got another dozen taxes covering me up, right? So, but if I'm not doing the choreography, that'll be obvious. So, but it was a blast, as much fun as I've ever had in a pep band playing with VCU.
Whenever Mizzou makes that Final Four, you can join us.
Yeah, when you and I goes to the national championship, which is absolutely going to happen.
Hopefully soon we'll get there.
I'll duct tape up my saxophone and I'll see what I can do.
I picked Mizzou to win it all the year that they were that they were a 2 seed, and then they lost to Norfolk State. Yeah, I want to talk about that. I was in the airport. I was so angry because my bracket was busted day one. Oh.
See, I have a different perspective because coming from a mid-major school, I live for every bracket buster that can happen. Like UMBC.
Thanks, Hannah. Appreciate it.
So you know how many people hated you and I after the Kansas incident in 2010? Farouk Manesh, my favorite.
I remember exactly where I was when he hit that shot because I was in a friend's basement watching the game, and we were just yelling at no. Yes!
Any dub against Kansas is good in my book.
Yeah, I remember I was in maybe 4th grade when they did it. My older brother was on a travel basketball team, and he had to leave to go to a game. And my mom was like, I'll run out and start the car and turn on the radio. So it's like we shut the TV out, and then we sprint to the car so we don't miss it.
That was an iconic moment in NCAA tournament history. And it has to be, if you're going to remember a name like Farouk Manesh.
Yup. Yeah, so then kind of talking about basketball, obviously this season is going to be quite different from any season we've ever seen. I know one of the measures they're kind of looking at is this idea of the golden window, where for our listeners who aren't familiar with what the golden window is, it's a lot of schools are going to be having their break from about November 25th to January 25th, which is kind of this 2-month period where there won't be a lot of people around on campus. Student athletes wouldn't be necessarily going to class and mixing with a bunch of people. And they're hoping to fit a lot of basketball games in that time. So then it's kind of the thought is the golden window really going to help a whole lot? Like, what are kind of your thoughts on that?
I think it can help. I mean, the more the basketball team is isolated from the rest of the student body, the communities that these schools are in, the more that you can isolate, you're not going to create a perfect bubble like the NBA can do. Mm-hmm. You just can't do that with college kids. But the more that you can isolate them from everybody else, the better of chance you have of getting some of these games in. Now, we've already had problems, right? The Syracuse, there's about a dozen, maybe more schools that have shut things down for a couple of weeks because of COVID issues within their program. So their seasons are going to start later than November 25th. But if they can get things settled and get through, December into January, and then who knows, maybe we have a vaccine by then, maybe things have calmed down by then. Who knows what's going to happen? But ultimately, the vaccine is going to be what gets everything back on track. Not just sports, but entertainment, just our lives in general, which I know we're all looking forward to. I'm dying that I can't go to these games. I cover college football. I can't go to a game. I'm going to cover college basketball. Indianapolis, I'm a 2.5-hour drive from Indianapolis. There's going to be a lot of great games in Indianapolis. I could get a credential and go, maybe, but it's not the same. It's not the same as when there's the energy of a Mackey Arena is just different than everything else. And actually could impact how a team like Purdue plays, because last year, this is atypical of Purdue. Purdue's usually pretty tough home or road, but last year Purdue on the road was terrible. Purdue at home was lights out. I mean, they destroyed people at home, and they've got that energy they draw from the Mackey Arena crowd. So if you don't have a Mackey Arena crowd this year, then where are they going to draw their energy? They're going to have to come up with it on their own, which past Purdue teams probably could have done, but last year's couldn't. And so now this year's team may have to do that. And some of these guys are older, but the character of that team is going to really show. And you're seeing it in college football as well. Penn State, Michigan having terrible years, playing in big empty stadiums, and especially I think Penn State draws a lot of energy from their crowd. They have that big whiteout game, which would have been Ohio State this year. They had nothing for Ohio State. They've had nothing for anybody all year. And I just think that, take, for example, a team like Indiana that's used to playing in front of sparse crowds or crowds that are full with visiting fans. They're probably happy to have home games in relatively empty stadiums, or they don't miss it because they're used to not having to draw the energy from the home crowd. But Ohio State, they're just completely different than everyone else in the Big Ten. But Michigan, Penn State, Michigan State, maybe those teams are suffering, I think, by virtue of the fact that they're not drawing energy from their crowds. We can see the same for, Purdue as an example, Purdue basketball this year. So I getting the crowds back into the stadiums, I mean, other than just being what makes college basketball and college football different than the pros is the spirit and the atmosphere and the camaraderie of the crowd. It's different in college. And I miss that. Watching football, I miss that. And watching basketball, I will definitely miss that.
I think that's such an interesting point, too, especially, and I know, like, all of us either were in pep band or we are in pep band in college, is that as much fun as we have, like, getting loud and going crazy, like, that really helps create that atmosphere. So I think it'll be kind of interesting to see, especially as conferences are moving to, I know something the Missouri Valley Conference has discussed is, do we let because we're split up between, I think, Illinois, Iowa, Missouri, Indiana, and like Illinois has much stricter regulations on crowds. So it becomes a question of, are we going to let the Iowa teams, can they have fans? But then if the Illinois teams can't, like, does that give them an unfair advantage? So I think that's really something that's going to be interesting going forward, especially from a band perspective when we're obviously like all watching from home and we all love being in the arena and getting in with that energy. So I think kind of seeing how that's really going to affect a lot of things. I don't know if Annabelle or Jason, if you guys can kind of speak to that with your pep band experiences.
We're more like the other schools you talked about. Recently, since I've been there, we're more likely see an empty arena than a full one. Here at Mizzou, unfortunately, especially like for the women's team. Normally it's just the band and some like season ticketers there, especially on the weekends. Men's, you really only see a full stadium when we're playing like a ranked team. Like never played Auburn, they're number one. We had a full stadium and we beat them. So I thought, the weeks after, people were going to keep coming, but they didn't. So I think we'll be okay. I haven't been able to be inside the arena yet. They said, I think we're going to have like 2,000 students, something like that. So I don't think it's going to impact us a ton because we're already used to it. But I do know that like Mizzou does usually have a tough time on the road.
For us, like, confession, I've never actually been to a men's game at Purdue yet because I didn't make the band and I really wanted to be in the band there. But I played for Gabs, which is our women's band, and same kind of thing with Annabelle, where it was like, there's not usually that many people there anyway, so that probably won't be as much of a change. But I'm sure the men will definitely have like a big change, and like just a team, like have to like really, I guess I'm finding a better way to say this, but like find a way to come together and still win even without that atmosphere that Mackey has. For on the road though, I mean, like, the atmosphere won't be there when they're away either, so maybe it might work in their favor. Hopefully we can see some wins. I noticed we weren't ranked right off the bat.
Oh, no, but that's all right. I think Purdue's going to make the tournament. They're going to have a bit of a bounce back here this year.
So then kind of with the COVID numbers, something that's been floating around a little bit on social media recently is people talking about this idea of May Madness, which obviously is just like theoretical at this point. But do you think it's worth it to try and go ahead and capitalize on that golden window and try and get as much of a season as we can? Or would it be better to move it back a little bit and see how things develop, kind of in your opinion?
I don't think you need to make that decision now. I mean, you can move the NCAA tournament from March to April or May in February. I mean, especially if what they announced this week is that they're going to try and play all of it in Indianapolis, right? So, which is great because Indianapolis is a city that can handle that. They've had events like the Pan Am Games there. They've got gyms everywhere in Indianapolis where you can play. So it's not quite a bubble, but you limit the amount of travel all of these teams are doing. You go to Indianapolis, you stay there till you're done, you go home. You're not going to, some regional somewhere, then to a different place for the Final Four. Everybody's in one spot until you're done, and then you just go home. So I think that'll work great. Whether it's March or April, or I would be surprised if we had to go all the way to May for the NCAA tournament. I think they're just going to get in what they can, but certainly the plan now is to play it as it was scheduled, except for have all of the events in the Indianapolis metro area, and I think that could be fine. They don't need to decide until later, and see how things go about moving it later. And it's just like the college football playoff. I mean, everybody says, well, the college football playoff should be later too. They don't have to decide that now, and it's a month and a half from now until the semifinals on January 1st. They still don't need to decide that now. So the NCAA for basketball can wait until deep into February before they decide if they need to move the NCAA tournament, and they may know before then if that'll be necessary anyway.
I mean, kind of with that same idea, I know we mentioned football. Obviously, there have been, especially recently, there have been quite a few teams that have had kind of COVID issues and having to quarantine and miss games. How do you see that kind of affecting, and I think especially for mid-major schools, how they might lose games and it would impact them a little bit more than perhaps a high major, and that like they're losing on chances to kind of get out there and get seen as opposed to more established schools? Like, do you think that'll play kind of a role in the selection committee when they're looking at resumes of teams, or do you think it'll be like, oh, we're just going to take everything as it is and go from there?
Well, the Pac-12, for example, started 2 weeks ago, and they've already had, I think, 4 games canceled in the first 2 weeks. So, and then they created one on a Friday to play on Sunday. So it just shows you how desperate they are to get games in. But the Pac-12 is the maximum number of games anybody can play is 7. That's 2 games fewer than the maximum for any other league. So that's a major conference, but they could still be really adversely affected if they have a problem throughout their league and they can only get, say, 5 games in, and they haven't given the committee much to go by. Then you'd make you wonder if they can even make the playoff. Whereas a team like Cincinnati, who's not in a power conference, currently still undefeated, maybe Cincinnati would have a better case to make the playoff just because they were able to get more accomplished during their season. But one of the things that hurts Cincinnati and BYU, who's undefeated, and Liberty and Coastal Carolina, is the fact that there were very few non-conference games this year. You have 4 conferences that aren't playing any at all. You've got the Mountain West that has a total of 4 non-conference games, the 2 Air Force games against the academies, one of which has been postponed, and then 2 games with BYU. And, that's it. So mathematically speaking, all of these leagues have isolated themselves from each other. So you don't have any data to work with to compare an SEC team to a Big Ten team because the SEC isn't playing anybody outside their league. And if you're a Cincinnati and you want that big non-conference win to make an impression on the committee, those games don't exist this year. Nobody got that big marquee matchup in non-conference play like a Cincinnati or a BYU where they could make an impression on the committee, and it's harder to make the playoff when you don't have that kind of a win. In a normal year, they have a hard time getting those games, but we don't even have 60 non-conference games this year. And you've got 3 independents that are playing probably 60% of those 60 games, or just by 3 schools. So it's really hard for the teams that are outside the power conferences to make any kind of a case for the playoff. But even for teams like the Pac-12, because they're playing so few games, it's hard for them to make a case as well. And then if COVID comes in and cancels a bunch of games, I don't envy the committee this year at all because they got nothing to work with.
Yeah, that's an even tougher spot to be in what's always a pretty hotly contested spot to be in anyway. I'd never, as cool as it would be to kind of be a fly on the wall in that situation, like that would be a tough job to do, especially this year.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to be in that Zoom meeting.
This would be absolute chaos. Yeah, and I know, Annabelle, you had a few questions about the SEC since we haven't touched upon that yet.
I have some questions for you. So I know we've talked a lot about the other conferences, but I was personally curious on what your thoughts were on Mizzou, and then also, like, what are you looking for within the SEC this year?
I'm rooting for Mizzou. Conzo Martin is one of my favorite guys.
I love him, yeah.
He's one of the best guys there is. I don't know if Mizzou's going to be good enough to make the tournament this year. I'm not optimistic that that's going to happen.
They'll ride on my optimism.
Sorry, but the SEC has gotten better the last couple of years. It's been Kentucky, for so long. Kentucky's dominated that league. And then somebody else would step up once in a while, like Florida had some good years under Billy Donovan. They'll probably be, okay this year. And Tennessee now has stepped up a little bit. And then LSU has stepped up a little bit. It'll be interesting to see what the NCAA does with LSU if they ever get around to it. They talk about the wheels of justice moving slowly. They move backwards in the NCAA. It's amazing.
Will Wade, what a man.
Oh, God. I mean, they run a hell of a basketball tournament, but, man, the enforcement is just painful. But the SEC has got, the Mississippi schools are better. Conzo's got to get some guys. Conzo can coach, but he's got to get some guys. And I hope that, if things don't go well at Missouri this year, that he gets another chance. And he recruited the Porters, and then they were hurt. And he never got a chance to get those guys out on the floor and show what they could do. And I don't know that he's replaced those guys yet, but I think the SEC has got some decent talent at the top, and Kentucky is Kentucky. Kentucky and Tennessee are sure things. There's going to be Alabama should be better. Auburn is good. The Mississippi schools are getting better. But then after that, I don't know what we're going to get. And it's kind of a mixed bag. And if somebody can emerge, you might find another team in the NCAA tournament. I don't know if Missouri's going to be your team, but I'm pulling for them.
Yeah, thank you. I agree with you, but we always need another fan. So
Hannah,
colors too.
Hannah, I'm sure you have a bunch of questions about mid-major schools.
Are there any mid-major conferences that you would ever think of that you'd be like, yeah, they could probably get two into the tournament or something like that? Or is it typically like, yeah, they'll have somebody win out and then nobody else has got a whole lot?
For the longest time, the Missouri Valley was that league. Their regular season champion was always a tournament quality team. And then for like 6 or 7 years in a row, that team would get beat in the tournament and they'd put 2 in. I mean, that's how it happens, right? Is it a league like that has the regular season champion is an at-large quality team, and then somebody else wins the tournament, and that's how you put more than one team in. And for years, the Valley was that league. I'm a fan of the Valley. I've been to Arch Madness a couple of times. Yeah. I love that tournament.
It's a lot of fun.
And now my local school, I live in Northwest Indiana. Valpo joined the league a few years ago, and I've known all the Valpo guys forever. So I root for Valpo. They're still gearing up to move up from the Horizon to the Valley, they're still getting the talent level up to try and compete in that league. But they had some moments last year. They'll have some this year too. The Mountain West Conference is usually good for another team. So we'll see what happens, with some of but it's been harder. The gap between the 6 power conferences in college basketball and then maybe the next, like the A10 and the American and the West Coast Conference. And then there's another gap to the rest of college basketball. And then that last group, it's hard for those leagues to get another team in the tournament. It's a lightning in the bottle kind of thing, where you've got a team that's good enough to win the regular season and be good enough to get an at-large team, but then not good enough to win your conference tournament. That somebody else could step up and beat them in the conference tournament. It happens so rarely anymore but the Southern Conference has had a couple years like that, but it's hit and miss. And I don't think that's good for college basketball. I kind of, I like to root for those underdogs. I like to see those 12 and 13 seeds in the tournament get their shots. I like to see them get their shots in the regular season, so that they can prove themselves and earn, better seeds in the tournament. We've seen some with Belmont in recent years, Murray State from the Ohio Valley. Yep. But it's too few and far between these days.
I will say, I love having Valpo in the MVC. We actually, I met some of their fans, and they were just the nicest people in the world. So I will. The
Valpo people are fantastic.
They're lovely.
And then, I guess the last thing from me is, if there's one narrative to kind of encompass this entire season that you think is going to happen, what would you say that is going into the season?
Roll with it. Stuff is going to happen. It's going to be a year where you've got to be flexible, and and if you're a coach, you've got to build that flexibility into your program. And the teams that can roll with whatever comes at us this year, and stuff is going to come at us all year, those are the teams that are going to be successful. The teams that are resilient, the teams that are mentally tough. Talent always helps, but what's going to separate teams this year are teams that can roll with the punches, that are going to come from outside of your program, from outside of the sport. If you can roll with that, you're going to have a good year.
Well, all right. I think that kind of wraps up kind of our discussion and everything for tonight. So once again, Jerry, thank you so much for coming on. This is such a cool opportunity, I know, for all of us to kind of get to talk to someone who gets into the bracketology and does a lot with basketball.
Oh, it was fun. I really had a great time. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. All right. So for all our listeners, thanks for tuning in. Stay safe, stay healthy, wear a mask, and we'll talk to you next week.